the problem is we don't have gas stations attendants and guys that do this stuff anymore, because that's where you took your car.
Try to keep the adjustment somewhat close, even though that we know he's going to have to do more adjustment.
I've been in your waters. I came for sure. I've never been so close before. It's one way or the other.
Sam kicks off the 2020 season with Bob Douglas from Rod End Supply, installing new rod ends on a fully custom hot rod. Now get ready as Sam prepares to remove the engine from the 1968 Buick Skylark. We have the long-awaited Hudson Hornet project back and ready to be restored. Sam's Garage, presented by Brothers Truck Parts.
Do we have something really special for you guys today? The boys at Metal Union, a local fab shop that restores hot rods, are building this mid-engine, Hemi-equipped 39, I think, Dodge, fully custom. And we're gonna be putting some Rod End Supply rod ends on it because they use some inexpensive rod ends just to mock everything up. But I got Bob Douglas with me, and we're gonna put some real rod ends that's gonna last them a long time, right?
Absolutely. And when you got something that's this highly engineered, they need to have a good rod end on it.
You're totally right.
Sure.
Absolutely. Well, what'd you bring us today?
Well, I kind of brought you a conglomeration of some of the parts that we sell. We do sell more than this, but this kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of what we do.
Well, I'm really excited to get started on this and install your rods and give this back to the boys of Metal Unions and let them know that we took care of a big problem for them. So let's get started.
Yep, let's go to work.
Let's go on the driver's side and we'll finish up the passenger side.
Sounds good. We do all different types of rod ends. We do an economy 2-piece. We do what is called a precision 3-piece, either a metal to metal or with a Teflon liner. And then we also have our own injection molded nylon fiber rod end. The nylon fiber rod end is something that we've developed over time, and it doesn't beat out like a Teflon liner does, and it doesn't get loose and sloppy like a metal to metal does. And
self-lubricating, correct?
Self-lubricating, it's self-cleaning, you don't do anything to it, you just kind of put them on and forget about it.
Forget about it. Yeah. That's nice.
Yeah,
That's really nice.
And they come in aluminum. We also make them in a mild steel, and we make them in a 4130 heat-treated chromoly steel.
Now, what about these bushing end rods ends? What do you use those for?
The smaller bushings are used, bushed ends are used in street rods and street machines. The larger one is used in off-road. A lot
Like
of
Jeep applications?
Jeep applications are very good with those. Yep. We also have clevises. They're used as well as in street rods, and also these longer ones are used in limit straps in the off-road. We also make adjusters, which an internal thread is a left-hand thread, the external thread is a right-hand thread, so you can take a rod and you can actually adjust it in and out.
That whenever you guys are replacing rod ends or even tie rods, these jam nuts, always loosen them while the component is still on the vehicle, because then the vehicle's holding everything in place and it's much easier to bust those nuts loose than to have them in your hand or put them in a vise. there you have it. We've already completed the driver's side. We replaced every joint on this side. That was pretty painless.
Wasn't bad.
Right.
Wasn't bad.
So come back. We're going to be doing the passenger side, so stay tuned.
When we come back, Sam continues with rod end supply and the installation of upgraded rod ends on the custom hot rod. Welcome back to Sam's Garage, presented by Brothers Truck Parts. Sam's Garage is brought to you by these fine companies.
Welcome back. Bob and I are here on the passenger side of this hot rod with the mid-engine. If you think of a worthy car of rod end supplies, rod ends, it's this one because it looks like it's going to go through a real beating when it's done.
It should. There's lots and lots of rod ends on this rear
And
end.
there's lots going on. They're very overzealous with all the horsepower they got going in this. But we know that if anything's not going to break, it's going to be these guys.
Yep.
So
I'm counting 10 rod ends on each side of the rear end. So
Yes, yes.
There's a lot of rod ends.
but at least they got a lot of movement back here.
That's true.
We're going to start replacing all the rod ends on the passenger side, and then we should be good to go. And this car will be ready to go back to the body shop and get finished.
Finish up.
That's really cool.
Which
Now, what
works
about this
real
little
good.
guy? What do you use this for?
Well, this is just to kind of highlight this. This is our largest joint, which is a 1-inch hole and 1 1/4 inch thread. This is our smallest joint, and that has a 440 hole with a 540 thread. This little guy right here is used, of course, in RC cars, which a lot of people see those. But the biggest thing that we sell them to is we sell them to Disney. And the Disney is using them in their animatronics. Normally, when you look at one of the figures and their eyes are moving and their ears are moving, more likely they're probably moving because of the rod ends. Now we've made a rod end for SpaceX. This has actually a Monel body. It's got a high misalignment in it. It also has a slot that's cut down the threads because there's actually a washer that holds it in place, and they don't allow. There's a lock nut on there, but the washer actually keeps it from turning.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so we make a wide variety of things. We also do a lot with uniballs. We do a lot with shock absorbers. A lot of the shock absorber companies buy from us. Those are the spherical balls that go in the ends of shock absorbers. We do a lot of stuff with industrial.
I can't wait to put these rod ends on this particular Metal Union custom car.
We probably need to get back to work so we can get that finished.
Let's do it. All right, Bob, I've almost got this one out.
Yep.
Went ahead and removed the nut. I went ahead and loosened all of our jam nuts on all the rod ends that we were replacing.
Yep.
So that it makes it a lot easier for us. There you go. Thank you. I'll get the other one off. And then it's very important that whenever you're doing something like this on any car, that you go to the alignment shop and get your alignment taken care of so that you don't kill your tires. Anytime you guys are working with aluminum, be careful, take your time. Aluminum is soft, can get galled easy. Don't hit it with a hammer. If you're gonna hit anything with a hammer, you're gonna use a rubber hammer. If you have a lead hammer, or in some cases a brass hammer, they absorb shock and take some of the force away from the component that you're actually hitting on. This side's coming apart a lot easier than the driver's side, Bob.
That's good.
It's nice. Not a lot of hammer hits required.
Yeah, the other side kind of fought us all the time.
All right, swap, that pretty much does it. This side is done.
Yep.
Now, I can see this is all pretty much fabricated. So you don't sell just the rod end joints. You sell everything for the fab guys to be able to make these parts in their shop, correct?
Yes, absolutely. These are bungs that they might have machined. I don't know if they did or not, but we sell a bung that goes into a piece of tubing and you weld it and then you screw the rod end into it. And we make them all different sizes. We go all the way down to a small 3/8 24 thread, and we go all the way up to the larger 1¼ 12 thread. So we make a lot of different sizes of bungs that you can fabricate your own parts.
Yep, all they got to do is supply themselves with the tubes and they're good to go, right?
Absolutely. That pretty well wraps this end up.
Yes, sir, it's good to go. It looks good too.
Yes, it does.
Stay tuned to Sam's Garage for the teardown and engine swap of a 1968 Buick Skylark. Now get ready as Sam prepares to remove the engine from the 1968 Buick Skylark. Here are the basic steps on an engine teardown.
We're going to be doing a 454 LSX swap in his personal 1968 Buick Skylark. This is going to be one cool project because we're going to be installing the LS Classics components onto this engine, making it look like an old school Fuelie small block.
Yeah, we got a whole assortment of them. We've got a 63 Fuelie, 56 Fuelie, 57 Fuelie. This is more in our 14-inch Classic, which is kind of universal. This one we kind of tweaked up to look more like a Buick engine now.
You know what's cool is until you look at those exhaust ports, you would never even think that it's an LS.
You
It
don't.
looks
You
just
really
like an
don't.
old small block.
Yeah, it's a
Very
pretty
good
cool
job.
project.
So now what we want to do is we want to get this big hood out of our way. We're going to go ahead and remove it so we can get all the other components out and start pulling this engine and transmission.
Welcome back to Sam's Garage, presented by Brothers Truck Parts.
Here's HE&M Sol's Project Hudson Hornet.
All right, Doug, looks like I need a 5/8 and a 9/16.
You know, it's absolutely amazing. This car is 65 years old, and the condition, this trimming and the chrome is absolutely unbelievable. I'm 64, and it's 65, and I think it's in better shape than I am. Yeah, it was stored in my father's barn. He had it there for many years.
What did it look like when you guys pulled it out?
Well, you know, it took quite a while to get everything away from it. You saw the amount of mud daubers nest. It just had mud daubers, mice living it, you know, everything under the sun. But, you know, it was out of the weather, and I think that's what made the huge difference.
Absolutely.
Here on Sam's Garage, we have the long-awaited Hudson Hornet project back and ready to be restored.
Man, do we have something exciting for you guys today? We got our Project Hudson Hornet, HE&M saw. Doug Harris is here. If you remember on season 4, we took this thing apart completely, and your dad, Jerry, actually gave you this car, and he was on set with us.
He did.
And we took this thing apart over the summer. We gave all the different components to people, like as in the body shop, the interior, the engine guy, the transmission guy, had it all rebuilt, and here we are now getting ready to reassemble this car. And we're gonna start with the engine. And this is something new to me. It's got carburetors, but it's also got a reverse polarity 6-volt system, which is positive ground. This is totally backwards than what we're used to today. So I had to get my mind around it. Luckily, we had the original Hudson Hornet manual. Now this is a 54, this is a 52, but it helped me in every way I could imagine to get this thing running. You can see the power wire for the starter is black, the ground is red. So it's positive ground. And in this case, the ignition system is gonna work off the distributor grounding the positive side of the coil versus what we're used to, which is the negative side of the coil.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you got power on the positive side. So it took me a little while to grasp that, and I finally got it all running on our engine run stand. We had to mock it up, and so I had to modify some stuff here to make this work because it's so long. But here we are, it's working. We're not gonna worry about the cooling system yet because we're gonna make sure this engine runs and has no leaks. We'll install the cooling system on the car and then burp it and get it idling and all that good stuff. And Wade's gonna come help us do that. So what I got here is I got a 12-volt jump box on my starter solenoid. I bypassed the circuit on the engine run stand because it is 12 volts. I don't want to fry anything. And so what I'm gonna do is hook up my alligator clip, power up the coil, go into the negative side. I've got my positive here. I'm gonna go to the ground strap on the starter solenoid. Okay, this is carburetor, so we're gonna squirt some fuel in there. And let's see what happens. There you go.
The reason he goes ahead and hits the throttle a couple of times, you've got accelerator pumps on the older carburetors, and you want to squirt a little bit of fuel in. The new systems that are fuel injected, you don't have that. So with the older cars, it's real important. You pump the throttle a few times, and those accelerator pumps, what they do is they'll shoot fuel into the carburetors, and that allows you to start it.
Yep, very cool. And here we have a thermostatic choke. If you guys notice, we have little tubes that come up from the exhaust manifold that actually transfers heat up to the thermostatic choke, allowing them to see the heat, and then they actually open up completely.
And what causes that to operate it is you've got some springs in there. So as the temperature gets hot, it causes those springs to go ahead and change. And as it does it, you'll have your choke. Your choke will start out closed, and then the choke begins to open up as the heat goes into the carburetor.
Very cool.
Very cool system.
Now what we've done here is we know the engine runs, we know we have no oil leaks, we got 50 PSI oil pressure. Now what we can do is go ahead and remove it from the engine stand, Make sure we torque down our flywheel bolts and get it ready, because the torque converter is actually a 2-piece torque converter. There's a gasket in the middle of it, and there's 30 bolts that hold the torque converter's 2 halves together. So we want to make sure to do that right so we have no leaks. So now we'll go ahead and remove it from the engine stand and get it ready to put in the engine bay.
Sounds like a plan. Looking
do it.
forward to it.
I've been in your waters.
Stay tuned for the next episode of Sam's Garage, where we continue to work on the Hudson Hornet and Buick Skylark projects.
It's